Okay guys, what we're going to do today is an interior wall penetration test using various calibers. Uh, I'll get into the calibers and ammo we're going to use here in a bit, but first I'm going to show you the setup. So what we have is half-inch drywall spaced with 2x4s, and we have one on each side. So this is our interior wall, half-inch front, half-inch back, spaced with 2x4, and we have 1, 2, 3 of these walls. And then we have a stand-in for an exterior wall, and this is again the half-inch drywall with a 3/4 inch plywood, again spaced with 2x4. And then we have a stand-in for another exterior wall, only this time it's reversed, so you have your plywood on the outside and your half-inch drywall on the inside. So what we're going to do is see what rounds, or if any of these rounds, can stay inside of our interior wall setup, and if they do exit, will they punch through another exterior wall setup and enter into I guess what would be another dwelling. Now I know these aren't spaced properly, this isn't exactly built up to code, I understand that guys, but hopefully we're going to be able to trap the rounds through all of these, because part of the problem I'm sure we're going to see is deviation once rounds start destabilizing. So that's why these aren't spaced as far apart as an actual room. They're about maybe 2.5 feet is the spacing between these. So hopefully we'll be able to keep the rounds actually on track to see what kind of penetration we get. Okay guys, so we're going to go over the weapons and ammo that we're going to be using for this test. So for the 5.45 5.56, we have a Palmetto State Armory. This has a 16-inch FN manufactured chrome line bore and chamber. So this should be representative of pretty common home defense carbines out there. And ammunition we're going to be using is going to be, this is the American Eagle XM193, marked with the AR 5.56. Federal Fusion MSR. This is a 62 grain bonded soft point. This should be pretty representative of more like modern law enforcement bullets. They're going to more of the bonded line, so we'll see how that does. HPR. This is a 75 grain bolt tail hollow point match. They use the Hornady 75 grain bolt tail hollow point in their loading. So this would be also similar to the Hornady tap line with the 75 grain projectile. Also HPR loading, 60 grain VMAX. Again, this is a Hornady bullet. This is the same that's going to be in the 60 grain tap urban. So that should be a good representation of that. And in addition to that, we also have this. This is one of the lightest ones I could find at the store. This is Remington UMC 223 45 grain jacketed hollow point. So this is one of the lightest little rounds I could find. So we got a pretty good representation here of most of the 223 rounds that someone might be using for home defense. Kind of spans the spectrum of the whole, from ball ammo to bonded to hollow point bolt tails to varmint rounds. Okay, for our 5.45mm, we're going to be using the Rifle Dynamics converted Arsenal 104. This has a I believe 14.5 inch barrel with the permanently attached flash hider. So a little shorter than 16, but this is the same barrel length I have on that I've been using for home defense for a long time now. And it should be pretty representative. You don't really lose too much velocity. So this is what we're going to stand in, since that's the barrel length I use on a home defense rifle. I kind of want to see what that's going to do. So the ammunition we're going to be using is going to be WPA Military Classic. This is a 60 grain full metal jacket, just regular commercial ball. The Hornady 60 grain VMAX. Hornady 60 grain VMAX. And the WPA 55 grain soft point. This is just a fairly inexpensive little soft point round for the 5.45. And I've tested most of these rounds before, but I've never done the interior wall test kind of like this. So I'm curious to see if this little soft point, what it will do in these interior walls. And also I'm curious to see how the 60 grain VMAX compares to the 223 60 grain VMAX. Both are very similar. So we'll see if the caliber, the actual construction of the bullet is any different, or if they perform exactly the same. Okay, for our shotgun, we're going to be using the Beretta 1301 Tactical. This has a standard 18.5-inch factory barrel. I believe it's cylinder bore. They say it's their optimal bore. I don't know if that's just a fancy term for cylinder bore. But anyway, it should be fairly representative, just a standard home defense shotgun. The ammunition we're going to use is going to be the Federal Premium number 4 buck. This is a 34 pellet load, rated at 1100 feet per second. I also have some number 1 buck, some Winchester number 1 16 pellet load, which is another kind of favorite of mine. I want to give this stuff a try first. We'll see how the walls hold up, or if we can even do the shotgun portion. We may have to do that another day. It'll be the last thing we do, since it's likely to do the most damage to the drywall. But we'll see how this turns out in that regard. So, in addition, we're going to use our Glock 19 with factory threaded barrel, so 4.5-inch barrel. So. Should be representative of standard service pistol, and the ammunition will use 147 grain HST. Again, representative of a good duty load that a lot of people will probably use for home defense. We're going to really use the 9mm more as a control to sort of just compare it to the penetration characteristics of these long guns, because a lot of people are actually choosing the carbine nowadays because of the claim reduced penetration over standard handgun rounds. And we're going to find out just how true that is. I've already seen a lot of tests on this guy, so I know that there is truth to it, depending on the ammunition you use. And that's kind of what I want to see. Is a lot of guys are just selecting a 5.56 or even a 5.45, and they're throwing whatever kind of ammo they have around in it, thinking that, oh, well, I'm safer than if I used a handgun as far as the penetration characteristics go through interior barriers and stuff. And we want to see, is that true, or is it just like a shotgun? A lot of people also claim the same thing about a shotgun. You know, they think, oh, I load buckshot, so I won't punch through walls and all that. And of course, double-aught buckshot is well known for penetration against barriers. So that's why we're going to be using the number 4 buck. I think this is more in line with what you should be using in your home. And if we can, we'll try to maybe throw the number 1 buck in there for those of you that think the number 4 is a little too light, which I can understand. But that's really the gist of this, is how much safer are you in terms of if you missed your target and having the round pass through your home and exiting and entering into someone else's abode? How much safer are you using a long gun versus just a standard handgun? And if you are safer, what loads are safer and maybe what loads aren't? So we'll get this going. Okay guys, so first up is going to be the XM193. This is the 5.56 55 grain ball. Okay, so our round, as I kind of suspected, our round deflected off. Began destabilizing. It looks like as it exited the second wall, it somewhat began to destabilize, and then you can see it's keyholed now. However, I don't see much indication of fragmentation. It looks like that bullet held together. And I did see the dust on the back berm, so it definitely was still moving as it exited this exterior wall. I might have to try that one again. We'll go through the others first. Hopefully we can keep them on here, but I don't see an impact on this wall, but I did see it on the back berm. Okay, so next up is going to be the Federal 62 grain Fusion MSR. Alright, so as you can see, our round came through. It looks like it began expanding, or at least it either expanded or destabilized, because these aren't rounded holes coming out. Yeah, it had to do one or the other because it made a larger exit out of the first wall. But it passed clean through all our walls, our exterior wall, our second exterior wall, out, and somewhere into the berm. Okay, next up is going to be the 75 grain bolt tail hollow point loaded by HPR. This is the Hornady bullet. Okay, so it looks like it destabilized coming out of the second wall. You can see the full profile here. Passed through, struck our exterior wall here, exited out. It looks like it fragmented on the as it came out. Struck our, yeah, it's actually in two pieces, and it struck our exterior wall for other home and actually exited out in pieces. And I saw a little splatter on the back berm, not the big dust plume I saw with the Fusion or the with the XM193. So it definitely broke up into pieces, but nonetheless it still penetrated all the way through. Okay, next up is going to be the 60 grain VMAX Hornady bullet again, as loaded by HPR. Alright guys, my camera killed in the heat, so I just fired the VMAX round. I had to let the camera cool off, so we'll go through that now. I marked all these while I was waiting for this to cool. So we had penetration through the first wall. It looks like this must be the polymer tip. It began expanding as it exited the first wall. Still going. We see a lot of fragmentation here, but the round still has a large piece that's still penetrating through. Exit, again, more fragmentation, still a large piece. Looks like there's two main pieces and small fragments. We've exited our exterior wall. One piece struck the exterior wall, our next exterior wall, and actually did exit out and landed somewhere on the back berm. It was definitely reduced in terms of mass because unlike the 193 and the Fusion, where I actually saw the dirt plume on the back as though just basically as though you were shooting at it, both the 75 grain hollow point and the VMAX round, I just saw very little disturbance. So both of those did break up before exiting, and they didn't seem like they carried too much energy. However, they did penetrate all our interior walls, our potential exterior wall, our second potential exterior wall, and inner end. Now, naturally, that would have been much less destructive to someone had it entered than the rounds that stayed intact, but alright, so let's keep going. Okay, so we're going to retest the 193, the M193, because I know some people are going to want to see that, because I know this round's actually pretty popular for home defense. People say it breaks up in interior walls. We haven't seen that yet, so we'll try again. Hopefully we'll be able to get it to pass through all the walls this time instead of skipping off. Okay, well I can definitely tell you it deflected up because I saw it hit the berm pretty authoritatively up there. And we did get passed through all the walls with no fragmentation. And I did see it strike the berm up there at the top, and it looked like it struck with a reasonable amount of authority. And we got no fragmentation. That is Federal XM193, the one labeled 5.56, I believe, AR. So keep in mind, this is from a 16-inch barrel, not a 20-inch barrel, which maybe those previous tests that I've heard where it fragments may have been due to that, but we're not seeing that here. Okay, so far all our rounds have penetrated through our walls, although the VMAX and 75 grain definitely were degraded in terms of they fragmented to some extent, and what exited was definitely degraded. The XM193 passed clean through, no fragmentation, and it was still moving at a good clip. The Fusion also exhibited expansion, some slowdown, but still passed through and struck the back berm. So all we have left for 223 is going to be this 45 grain jacket hollow point, so we'll see if this one gives us a round that can stay inside. And it did not. Okay, so that round exited out. It doesn't even look like it fragmented. This was our M193. This was our 45 grain hollow point, and from what I can tell, it looks pretty darn intact. I don't see, I don't see any fragmentation on the board. So this is our 193. This is our 70 or our 45 grain. See some destabilization happen, full destabilization, but I don't see any fragmentation. So that round looks like it just held together, punched clean through. So, well, that was a waste of money. I thought that would have, thought that one would have done it, but oh well. That's why you got to test these things. Alright guys, we're going to move on to our 5.45. This is going to be the 60 grain WPA full metal jacket. I don't really have high hopes of this stopping in any of this material. The bi-metal jackets on these things actually tend to hold together well and give good penetration. But let's see if I can be proven wrong. Well, I already see dust off the back berm, so destabilized as it exits the first wall. Well, it looks like it took a major detour. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that was okay, that was really strange. It looks like we destabilized coming fully and then entered here, or at least it looks like. Exited here, entered again here. It's like it must have flipped and then kept going point first, hit the wood, and then yes, that's what it did. It destabilized again, hit sideways, exited out, exploded all this, and somewhere into the back berm there. So that's kind of interesting. So I guess it flipped when it came here and sort of righted itself, it looks like, and continued on, striking right there and exiting through and off into the back berm. Okay, this will be the 5.45 60 grain Hornady VMAX. Entry, exit, again looks like that plastic polymer tip. I believe that's what that actually, I'm not sure, but we saw the same thing with the fact that's a mirror image basically. Large exit, fragmentation. The round's obviously broken into two pieces, probably at the cantilever. Large exit here, wow, that's a, okay, we got two very distinct fragments that are rather large, some smaller fragments. Exit, entry, and exit. Again, it looks like what's happening is breaking in two, guys, and what it looks like is happening is the core, probably below the cantilever, is still penetrating on. I did see a little dirt disrupted on the back berm there, but it wasn't very much. So, you know, how much penetrating power it had by the time it got to the back berm, I don't know, but it definitely slowed down over the rounds. It didn't fragment at all, so that's at least a reasonable sign. It looks like it did exactly the same thing as the 5.56, so, or 2.23. So there's that. Okay guys, be 5.45 again. This will be the 55 grain WPA soft point. Well, it's a good sign. I didn't see any big dirt plume on the back. Okay, we definitely broke in two at this point. This is the third wall. Entering the third wall, we have two pieces. Continue on. Yeah, two pieces. One piece penetrated our exterior wall, entered our second exterior wall, and exited out. Kind of similar to the VMAX. Although, I don't know which one had more oomph coming out and going in. They look pretty similar. But it definitely did break into two pieces. So, you know, again, I didn't see a large plume on the back, so whatever exited obviously did not have nearly the energy the full metal jacket had. So there you go, guys, in a nutshell. There's the 5.45 round. So we're going to fire the pistol round as a control, and then we'll do the number 4 buck, since that's probably gonna finish this off, because I don't think these walls are going to take much more. Alright guys, this will be a Federal 147 grain HST fired from Glock 19 with the factory threaded barrel, so it's the same barrel length as a Glock 17, so it should be representative of a typical duty pistol. And of course it exited out. Doesn't really look like we had any real expansion. Maybe a pedal or two might have unfolded slightly, but that's pretty much what we suspected. You know, in this particular test, there's no real comparing this to the rifle and the pistol because all the rounds exited. I would imagine the fragmenting rifle rounds did produce less downrange potential than that solid round, but the full metal jacket rifle rounds cleared right through in a similar manner. So we'll try another test here in a bit and see if we can't kind of decipher some of that information a little more. But let's go ahead and get on with the number 4 buck. Okay guys, Federal Premium Personal Defense, number 4 buck. All these shots, by the way, I didn't mention, were taken at approximately 15 feet, so roughly across the bedroom. So let's give this a whirl. Okay guys, so my camera died in the heat. I'm not sure at which point, so I'm pretty sure I caught the shotgun blast, but I'm going to go through each of these real quick just to let you know in case. So our number 4 buck hit here. You see a nice concentric pattern, our wads. This is also at 15 feet. You can see we have about a 5, maybe 6 inch spread, so that buckshot spread at about an inch to just over an inch per yard, which is pretty darn good for home defense. That's actually more along the lines of what I'm looking for when I look for home defense buckshot. At any rate, so we got our wads and shot column impacting. The wads did not exit the first wall. Our shot column obviously did. Let's see here, second wall, third wall, and fourth wall, and we got no exit on our exterior wall. In fact, looking in there, it looks like the pellets maybe are stuck in the board or bounced off. I see little pock marks on the board. I can't really tell from here, but either way, they didn't exit the board, not a single one. So far, the number 4 buck appears to be the least penetrative in interior walls as compared to 5.56, 5.45, and the handgun. Real quick synopsis on all these, or a brief overview. Both the 60 grain VMAX for the 5.45 and 5.56 perform virtually identical, snapping it looks like snapped at the cantilever, fragmenting. However, the bases did penetrate through and somewhere into the back berm, although it did not strike the berm with much authority. The 55 grain soft point for the 5.45 also broke in two and kind of performed similar to the VMAX. We had one piece exit all the way through, again didn't strike the berm with much authority, as did the 75 grain bolt tail hollow point for the 223. It snapped in two. I believe this was it right here actually. Exited out, but again did not strike the berm with much authority. Both ball rounds, both XM 193 and WPA 60 grain for the 5.45, both rounds did not fragment, exited out, and struck the berm with some serious authority. So those rounds were still moving at a high velocity, or I wouldn't want to be in the way of them. The 45 grain jacket hollow point did not exhibit any expansion, fragmentation, nothing. It simply blew right through and into the back berm. That was kind of disappointing. And also the 9mm punched straight through and again hit the back berm, which that's not too surprising. That was 147 grain HST. It doesn't look like it offered any expansion, or very little if it did, which is not surprising. Usually those rounds clog up with the building material and punch through, similar to full metal jacket. So why didn't I use double aught buckshot is because I know double aught buckshot penetrates quite a bit. And I always see people trying to compare rifles to shotguns, saying the shotgun over penetrates. Look what my, truth be told, just like anything, it's how you load it. Whether it's a shotgun or a rifle, how you load it is going to greatly determine the type of penetration characteristics you're going to get. So in this particular scenario, in this case, our number 4 buck was the least penetrative of all the rounds we used. It did not exit our abode. All the other rounds did, although some of the rifle rounds exhibited a good amount of fragmentation, and they certainly were reduced. As I said, they did not strike the back berm with much authority at all. I barely even saw the dirt move, whereas with the full metal jackets, straight through, hit the berm with authority just as if you were shooting it. So take that into consideration. So the next thing we're going to do in the next video, we're going to do some penetration tests in 2x6s with some of these rounds, not all of them, because I don't think we're going to be able to put them all on the board, but some of these rounds to see how that compares in straight up just wood material, such as what's 2x4. And then we're going to do a little bit of penetration with some jugs to kind of compare that. If these rounds are getting deep enough to be effective as personal defense rounds. And in a future video, we'll do that one actually in a completely later date. I'm going to probably place jugs in front of these walls. I'll rebuild them, maybe like 2 jugs based off my previous 10mm, 9mm, 45 type video. After seeing that, what the rounds, after they expand fully in a jug, how much the penetration was reduced. I think that'd be interesting to see in case you had a pass through in a body and how that would shake out. Hope you guys like this. The next video, like I said, I'm going to do here in a minute, but I'll post it separate. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe, like if you like this, comment below if you have anything to add.